I'm going to introduce our speaker. And Walter, I have to say that when you shared your bio and this little video that's just one number different, and it's a little 1-minute clip about the YMCA, and basically it goes through the thing of saying that in America, the zip code you're born into can determine your future. And this little clip really struck me as I was preparing my notes to introduce our speaker, because it truly does matter where you're born and the opportunities you have. And living in rural McCormick now, where I see a lot more poverty than where I spent the last 20 years in a university town, it really makes you feel like it makes a difference where you're born and who your parents are. And really looking forward to hearing more from Walter about how the YMCA helps change that. And so I think I have this correct, that Walter is a member of the Rotary Club of Indian Land Lunch. And
Yep.
so he can get makeup credit for being with us today. He's the executive director of the Indian Land YMCA and has worked for the Y for over 12 years, serving in every role from fitness attendant to summer camp counselor before getting his first opportunity as program director with the Lakeland Family YMCA in the Lakelands. And Walter is a graduate of the University of Florida with a degree in sports management and moved to South Carolina in 2020 to serve as the operations director of the Gregory Family YMCA. Then in 2022, he transitioned to the executive director job at the Indian Land YMCA and is still in that role today. Walter enjoys playing basketball, watching sports, binge watching TV shows, and much more. And we're happy to have you here with us today. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can tell us about what you're doing at the YMCA.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thank you guys for having me. First of all, I want to just say, like I said, thank you guys for having, but also tell a little bit about my history with Rotary Club. I grew up, like Julia mentioned, in Lakeland, Florida, which is smack in the middle between Tampa and Orlando, in a big metropolis area. And I was in Little Polk County in the middle of that. And my mom was involved with Rotary Club for 50 years. She doesn't go anymore just due to it's challenging for her to get to the meetings. But she was involved with it for a long time and helped start the Rotary 5K event that they do every year. And so I've got Rotary in my blood in that world. But I am still relatively new and learning quite a bit as I go to meetings and just kind of try to learn the best I can on all that Rotary does and has to offer. Even just learning histories of the logo. You know, I grew up in the Y world. The Y logo that Shirley and Ken have in the background of theirs, their image is not the same one that I grew up with and saw growing up. And so it's transitioned. And so even learning the history of the Rotary logo and how that's changed, all that interests me, and I've learned a lot along the way, which has been really cool. A little bit more about my background that I didn't share in my what I sent to Julia was I'm actually a byproduct of the services I'm going to talk about in the Y world. I grew up in Lakeland, Florida, and was not a member of the Y until 2010. I started in 2010 when my mom was like, "Hey, we're going to get you involved in or not, excuse me, not 2010. 2010, so I started something else. 2003 started I started aquatics. I did swim lessons with my mom, and she was like, "We're gonna do swimming practice together and all that sort of stuff." And I just wanted to play basketball. Did not want to be in the water at all. Basketball was where I wanted to be, and so I, kind of would sneak off early from swimming time and go and play basketball with friends that I had met and things like that. Shortly after that, I met this guy who was the sports director at the Y. His name was Brian Hernandez. And he introduced himself, and I got involved in his sports programs. And then I kind of progressed throughout that as I was between the ages of 9 and 14, where he eventually invited me to this program called Leaders Club, which was a teen leadership development program for middle and high school kids. And I was lucky enough to get involved and stick with it, even though sometimes I wanted to quit. Stick with it and keep going and all of that, and kind of just continue my journey wanting to work for the Y. It wasn't always where I wanted to work, partially because my parents said, "Hey, you're going to go get this degree from UF and you're going to become a mechanical engineer." And I said, I don't want to do that. I want to work in the nonprofit world and not make all the money that maybe could be out there, but also be able to impact people and be part of the lives of part of changing lives like I was able to get. And so that's a little bit more of the history. And it's hard to put into words, but I wanted to be able to share that. So I'm actually going to talk a majority of my time about Leaders Club because I think it's a portion of what the Y's mission is in impacting teens that is not talked about enough. And so I'll talk about that. I'll also talk about youth family services that we offer, but a lot of my portion will be talking about that. It doesn't hurt that I just actually got back on Saturday evening from the YMCA's Blue Ridge Leader School, which is basically the end of Leaders Club's end of year kind of week long celebration. And that's a space where they learn skills. These teens will learn skills from how to be an official, to how to teach swim lessons, to how to lead their own leaders clubs back home. They learn all of these different skills to be Y professionals and Y staff. And so it's really an amazing training ground. And I was lucky to attend it from 2010 to 2014, and then now attending as a staff member up there from 2017 on to now. So it's kind of been in multiple different roles and capacities, but my heart is with teens. That's where when I was program director, I was a teen and family program director, and that's an area that if you guys go to the store often, you see that there is a challenge with teens nowadays. Middle school, high school kids, they don't have the same direction. They've always had the same accountability from parents, things of that nature. And Leaders Club tries to provide structure to that. And so that's what I'll talk little bit about. I'm also going to share kind of what we're doing as it pertains to swim lessons, youth sports offerings. We do cheerleading, taekwondo, youth strength and conditioning classes, all of that sort of stuff I'll mention as well. And kind of talk a little bit about this other event I'm actually doing later this week called Vice Sports. So that's kind of where we're heading throughout the rest of this time. And Julia, how much time do I have?
We have until 1 o'clock and we
Okay.
have no other business. So
Okay.
if you don't use up that time, I
Yeah.
guarantee you, past District Governor Ken will ask questions until we get to 1 o'clock.
That's
So
totally cool.
if you want.
That's totally fine. I want to just be mindful of everyone's time. So that's the only
Absolutely.
reason I mentioned anything.
Give
So
me
I'm
like 2 minutes at the end. So, but we'll
yeah,
do
yeah,
questions
yeah, yeah.
for sure.
For
And if
sure.
you guys have questions, put them in the chat. We'll do questions after he's done talking.
Perfect. I'm going to try and share my screen. Emphasis on try, but I should be able to.
Great.
So give me just a second. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, I will try to get to where I'm trying to get to. All right, so this is a little bit about, like I said, I'm going to start with, you guys see my Leaders Club PowerPoint? Yeah?
Yes.
Perfect. So this is kind of where I want to spend a good portion of my time, and kind of how we're trying to help bridge some of the challenges and the gaps as it pertains to emotional and mental health with teenagers and giving them the support systems that they need. Part of what the Y has talked about my entire life is it takes more than parents, it takes a village, and the Y offers that in tons of different services that it has. But one of my favorites is Leaders Club. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So I've got this photo here. So I'm this gentleman in the white dress shirt on the far left from back in 2009, actually, when that photo was taken. And then the guy on the far right with the purple arrow pointing, his name is Brian Hernandez, and he's our chief strategy officer up here in South Carolina as well. So I've went from 2009 meeting him all the way to following him up, all the way up to South Carolina, and kind of working alongside hand in hand with him, and started when I was a kid in the Y world. And then the gentleman on our right is our sports and fitness director, who also helps with Leaders Club and is a co-advisor with me. And just we've got young faces that want to impact teens and youth in our communities. And so that's some of the people that we have. These are some of the Ys that we've been at and served before. So a little bit about what Leaders Club is. We kind of narrow it down into these three things. The first one's kind of our Leaders Club creed, which is leaders lead, leaders are fit, and leaders are aware their decisions. And that was something that Steve Tarver, who is the CEO of the Y Grade Louisville, or was, and recently retired, he said for my entire life growing up, and it's stuck with me as it pertains to how we teach and train young teenagers into hopefully future community leaders and mentors in their own rights in their community. We also do it through servant leadership that we teach through kind of volunteering and supporting the Y in different avenues that could look like sport officiating could look like um, point keeping for sports games, could look like greeting people at the front desk, could look like helping with swim lessons or just with general stuff around the Y world to make sure that we can give the best overall experience to our members. And so Leaders Club has been a big portion of that, and we do that through volunteering. So when I was a kid growing up in Leaders Club program, we had to volunteer 150 hours a year to be able to go to the Blue Ridge Leaders School that I just got to go to this last week, and that's still a similar standard that we have nowadays. And so we learn a lot through volunteering, and then a lot of these teens end up being staff for the Y. So it's a great transition program, great opportunity for them to build self-esteem, build self-confidence, and just a good attitude, as well as just building the habits that kind of go back toward um, toward the everyday workforce, like showing up to work on time and like showing up in dress code, like making sure they know how to speak to people and they're not rude and they hopefully aren't on their phones and don't have AirPods in while they're trying to have a conversation. It's those sort of things that we're trying to really teach, and some of the lost soft skills that have a little bit been lost along the way, we're trying to help give back to. So there's that. We focus on the Y, spirit, mind, and body into everything we do. So we will incorporate faith, we incorporate the physical aspect, and then the mind and how we can challenge that throughout the program. Club philosophy, we talk a little bit about these three things being the main things that we focus on, and one it being identity. It's what do we identify as, who do we want to identify like, and then such, like who do we get that sense of identity from, right? Is it from our faith? Is it forged in the people around us and social media? Where are those things that people gain identity from? And challenging those and trying to give people support where they need it. Taking self-responsibility. And then the last one is holding people accountable. And so those are really things that we try and focus our attention and detail on. And so if we have leaders who show up out of dress code, well, it's time to call them on and make sure you go get your shirt, because we're going to hold you accountable to the fact that this is our dress code. This is what we agreed to. And as a Y professional, I deal with that a lot with our adult staff that still don't think that that's a standard that we should hold. So trying to really reshape it from the ground up when it comes to middle school and high school kids, so that when they are in those spaces, they can be the best staff that we have when it pertains to the service industries that we all enjoy and love. So that's a lot about what we do. We do that, and I won't go through every single thing, but trying to get them out of their shell, making sure that they can be themselves, and try to, fight back against the culture of kind of excuses, owning their own schedule, making sure that we talk about prioritization. If you have to get your hours, making sure you don't wait till the last minute to do your volunteer hours. That's a lot of what we spend our time on. And this is something I love, and it says uncoachable kids become unemployable adults, and it's so true. Let your kids get used to some being tough on them, and it's life. And that's really how we lead in trying to make sure that these teens have some positive accountability, responsibility driven adult leadership in their lives, because not everyone has that. And so we try to be another avenue for that, working with school systems and then working with parents and families as well. So, all right, that's what I've got on Leaders Club. The only other thing I'm going to share on that is some photos. And these are of some of the views that we got to see this last week at Blue Ridge Leader School. So it's in Black Mountain, North Carolina. And the kids can look out from these green rocking chairs and see just these beautiful mountain lines and these beautiful cloud coverage and all that. It was pretty cloudy and rainy all week. But other than that, they get that experience of being in nature and just being in a position to learn and grow that's not attached to a phone or attached to all of the other things that might be stealing their attention. We give them the opportunity to be part of something that's just different than their everyday. Especially being, like us in Indian Land, we're directly south of Ballantyne and Charlotte area. So for us, there's a metropolis really close. And so it's there's a lot more movement, a lot more moving parts, and a lot of people moving to Indian Land. So to be able to step away from all that and be able to come up here was really, really cool. And then the other photo I have is similar, but is of a bunch of the teens that were there. There's about 450 that were there throughout the week from across the Southeast, ranging from Louisiana up to Virginia, Kentucky, down to Florida. And so kind of all throughout that Southeast region, about 450 teens go up there. And what they're doing right now in this photo is something called Vespers, which is just a evening, kind of a late afternoon, evening time of reflection, where they'll hear some music and they'll hear some spoken word on kind of just a way to really get in tune with themselves and learn and listen to what the beauty around them has to say, and what God has to say about them. And so that's just some different stuff that we kind of do throughout the week. But I wanted to show those pictures because I just think it's just beautiful out there and cool to see. So that's all I've got to share was that. But I've got some other things I wanted to mention. We did talk about the fact that we offer swim lessons. I'm sure there are many people on this call who've learned to swim at the Y, or been around a Y pool growing up, and all of those types of things. And I certainly am a product of that as well. But the Y also offers, at least in our county, a fourth grade learn to swim program, which allows all fourth graders in Lancaster County School District to be able to come to our Y and get free swim lessons, which is a really, really cool partnership. And that actually will get started with the school year in the fall. So they'll come to our Y in October and November and get to use the pool and, really learn some of those life-saving skills. As of right now, drowning is the second leading cause of death in minors. In the state of Florida, where I grew up, it was the number one cause of death in the state. And so for minors, and so to be able to help really draw an impact in that area is something that we really hold true to that sort of thing, and it's completely free. We have a foundation that helps fund and support the mission that we're trying to accomplish in partnership with the school district, but we really are glad to be able to offer that as a free service that every fourth grader in the county will get to do, to hopefully prevent drowning issues. Over in the Fort Mill TK area recently, they had a very tragic, sad drowning in Lake Wiley, and so that sort of stuff, I don't know all the details on it, but I want to make sure that we can provide that type of stuff to our area, and all of our Ys in our area do provide that to an extent. I can just only speak for our county, and so it's something that we've been doing for 40 years here, and we're really proud of the efforts. We talked about just even the other day the fact that it's 50,000 students that have gone through it. That's quite a bit of people who've gone through that over that 40-year, almost 40-year time period. And so we're really proud of what we do with our Learn to Swim program and our overall youth swim lessons on a weekly basis. We see about anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 people do swim lessons with us each year in our own Y programs, who maybe, are younger than fourth grade and haven't got to that part. And so it's been something that's been really a big portion of what we do. The other thing, actually, I do have one more thing I'll share with you guys. So we also, kind of stepping away from aquatics and going towards youth sports, we also offer, we also offer year-round sports offerings. So this is just like a little calendar that we have that highlights the different levels of kind of where and when we offer different sports. So we have basketball, youth soccer, youth flag football that we offer pretty much year-round. We skip spring break, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Other than that, we're running sports. And some of the biggest benefits to sport, include the fact that these folks are not just going to stop when they're at 9 or 10 years old. If they have a good experience in our sports program, we know that they might be an adult who wants to continue the fitness journey of playing sports as they continue to grow throughout their life. And so we focus a lot of our youth sports on that teamwork component and trying to build that camaraderie and having a good time, so that because we know that person's going to stay healthier if they can stay in sports longer. And so we focus a lot of our attention on that. While also trying to teach the hard work and resilience and teamwork and those kind of different avenues throughout the youth sports programs that we offer. We also offer, like I mentioned earlier, cheer and youth strength and conditioning, and taekwondo, which is some more obscure but offsetting things to provide different things. What we've realized in the Y world, and especially in our community in Indian Land, there's not a lot of services like social services and things like that. Once again, I grew up in Lake Florida, right between Tampa and Orlando. I mean, I had everything growing up, and so moving to South Carolina was a little bit of a transition, moving to a more rural area that's really growing, but it isn't a developed long-term city or anything of that yet. And so it's been really, really cool to see the growth. But as we provide, like, there's not, standalone Taekwondo building. So how do we still provide those types of services without that being our full niche, or creating sub services from that? But we're really able to provide more and just some small weekly, twice a week or once a week kind of a programming, giving them, Taekwondo as an option, cheerleading, and then I mentioned youth strength and conditioning, which is helping give some folks the confidence to get in the weight room when they're of age to be able to do so. So we really work with teenagers and some, kind of later elementary age kids who are, really learning some body weight exercises and things like that. Because we're trying to fight, an increasing obesity rate in kids. As it's actually increased. I heard my entire life, 1 in 4 kids. It's now above 1 in 3 kids are dealing with childhood obesity. And so trying to tackle that through what we do in our sports programs and some of those other things I mentioned is really a big impact and part of what we're trying to do. So we also offer after school and camp, and are able to serve tons and tons of people through that. We have about 120 kids in our camps throughout the summer, and then 60 that are kind of in our after school program year round. And we work closely with the school district on those types of things. And all of the programs that I've kind of mentioned work under a similar umbrella. And I saw somebody in the chat just as it popped up mention access. Access is the hardest challenge that the Y world faces, is providing a large amount of services, costs money to be able to operate, but being able to ensure that we don't turn away anyone due to lack of ability to pay. And so, even in our mission statement is to put Christian principles into practice through programs that build healthy spirit, mind, and body for all. And that last 2 words are the most important, which is for all, and our ability to provide financial support to families who may need it. That's a big portion of what we do. And we're really lucky to have a generous, well-meaning CEO who wants to give as much as we can away. And so part of what we do each year, we actually have an annual campaign goal to raise those funds to be able to offer scholarship. And we have a certain goal, and the amount we gave away doubled what we said we were going to try and raise, because we want to give as much as we can away to be able to give families access to what we're doing. And so that's a little bit of kind of the program and the offerings that we have. One thing I didn't mention is our after school and our summer camp programs are really targeting some of the skills that are lacking in the education system. For example, what school districts are seeing a lot of times is that kids are coming in at lower reading levels, due to the fact that COVID had restrictions and the ability for them to learn some of that stuff, but coming in with lower reading levels. And then something that the Y world, or maybe even the education world, I'm not sure, talks about is something called the achievement gap. And so what that says is that, we know that people are going to learn, they're going to lose some of the things that they learn throughout the summer. And so we've actually, part of our summer camp curriculum is included reading time to be able to ensure that kids are getting up to 30 minutes of reading time each day when they're in our programming. Because we know that, and even in the Rotary world, the importance of literacy. And we know that through Rotary, but also through the kind of efforts that the Y is trying to do to help shrink that achievement gap so that people don't go backward during the summer, they can kind of continue to go forward. So that's a little bit about kind of the services that the Y offers. And then kind of, I think that's pretty much what I had to offer. I'm going to read through some of the chat.
Walter, I'll go ahead and read the chats for you so that
Yeah, thank you.
going to be thinking of the thank you for that. That was a great summary of things, because I know I grew up in an area without a Y,
Sure.
but I know that in big cities and stuff that a lot of people that I met in college learn to swim at the Y. And I think those of us who learn to swim really young it's unimaginable that a friend of ours in junior high could get to junior high or high school and not know how to swim.
Yeah.
And I think that is something where, and then I know a couple people in the chat talked about as an adult, you know, having the confidence to go, I do not know how to swim well, and I need some help with that, and looking for those resources. So
Sure.
I think that's definitely, so why don't you touch on that first, is that if it's an adult that, or someone that's not in fourth grade and they
Yeah.
want to do some swim classes,
Yeah.
how do they go about that?
So we actually offer swim lessons in like our nightly swim lesson or even morning swim lessons that we offer as well throughout the week. We even do those starting at as young as 6 months old. And we do as old as 99 in our system. The oldest I've seen go through our adult swim lessons program was 77, and that's pretty crazy to hear. But she really, really wanted to have that skill, and she spoke with our membership director at the time and said, "Hey, I want to do this, and I'm scared, and I'm nervous, and I have no idea." And I think that for her, it wasn't that she was actually going to be swimming often; it was that ability to achieve a goal. And I think that was something that we were able to help be a part of. Something that we have identified as a growing, I don't, challenge sounds negative. I don't mean it to sound negative at all, but a growing need, let's say growing need in our community is there's a really strong influx of Indian American populations that are coming to our region. And a lot of that population is coming in going, we need more swim lessons, we need more. So um, we're even trying to create different avenues for those folks to be able to gain access and to as well as just our general membership. But it was something that I wasn't used to seeing. What was that type of need in a wide world? And so it's been really interesting to see. And we've had to add more and more classes throughout to help meet that demand. And so we're even looking at other ways to offer classes as early as like 4 o'clock, 3:30 type of offerings, which typically in the wide world we start at 5 o'clock because that's when parents get off work and go from there. But we've started to add more as there's been more demand to help meet kind of a growing need. And also with that is similarly a growing need with refugee populations that are coming from Europe and Asian countries that are coming here to be able to try and get some additional support to add some more resources. So that's been some areas that we've seen some growth and where we're able to provide that. So the fourth grade Learn to Swim program is a big part. And it's the free option of what we do, but there's tons and tons of families that come in and get those services starting as young as 6 months old.
Awesome. All right, so this kind of goes back to the leadership
Yeah.
camp is, can you talk a little bit about teaching the kids that disappointment happens without it seeming harsh, you know, when they're trying to do something and they doesn't always go like they want and in that leadership role?
Totally. Yeah. So I would say I'm lucky that I was a teen who grew up in the Leaders Club program with an advisor who had standards and who taught me that sort of thing. The thing I learned from him the earliest was I had to have a relationship. If I didn't have a connection, a relationship, I was not going to be able to come across as anything other than harsh or just overly critical. And so I really try to focus my attention and my time on building a relationship all throughout the year with them. So when it comes time for accountability, they know it's from a place of love and not a place of just trying to enforce something that, you know, they maybe don't even understand the significance of. And then I think kind of in the same token is we try to be as vocal as possible about why we're doing the things that we're doing. When it comes to addressing, you know, things that we want to try and correct. You know, why would a dress code matter? Why would not having AirPods in while you're trying to talk to somebody at the store matter? Why would, you know, and try to really focus on the why and it being less about them as the person, really trying to tackle the problem in action, not necessarily them as the person. And I think that's challenging for teens to sometimes discern between, wait, they don't like me or those types of things. And so, but I think that has always been best with the folks that we have the best relationships with. And then just being clear on our expectations too. And that way there's no hidden jump scares. I didn't know, we try to be clear on the things that we want to be practical and clear on, and then just communicate that.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going back through where was I? How do these programs compare to other Ys? Like, are they pretty consistent with having the same offerings?
So I would definitely say, for how the Y world works is, we have a CEO of our association of YMCAs. And so that association will have anywhere from, I've worked at one that had 3 YMCAs in it, all the way to ones that have had 27 Ys in it. And so they grow in size, and so there's different scalability of that. And so certain Ys have certain things that they've done a certain way for a long time. When I grew up in Lakeland, we did kindergarten learn to swim. And so moving here was a little bit different in that world. But generally, I think that the Y has had, how do I say it? Just different programs that, depending on the needs of the community, so something that we've fallen in trouble with is trying to copy every Y and what they do. But if that's not a need that the community has, it doesn't make sense for us to try and offer it. And so there's certain communities that need different types of things. If you grow up in, let's say, for example, Kansas, in the middle of the United States, where there's maybe little to no water in comparison to being a state that's lined on the coast of the Atlantic, or a state like I grew up in Florida, which had the Gulf and the Atlantic and lakes all over the place. The demands for swim lessons may change because the access to water changes. So there's things like that that change throughout the communities. But generally, I would say within our association, yes, that doesn't impact or change based on the branch. Some branches are smaller, some are more executive fitness centers than others. But ones that are family facilities are going to have a pool, they're going to have swim lessons, they're going to have basketball, those types of things.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So I know that the Y, that the C in Y is a Christian organization.
Yeah.
And especially you mentioned having, the Indian families moving in and other maybe different religions or non-religious. And how is that with the Y's inclusiveness of community versus Christian community?
Totally. So what I've always loved about the Y world, growing up, I didn't grow up in a faith-based background at all. I actually got involved in faith when I was older, when I was 20 at the University of Florida, which sounds crazy, but it's true. And so I was lucky enough to kind of learn a lot later, about, a God that loved me, and kind of go from there. But for the Y world, something that I think has been a challenge for so long is that the people said when we changed our verbiage from YMCA to the Y, that we were taking the C out of the YMCA. And if you actually know the logos of the Y, we actually put the C back into the YMCA because it says YMCA, whereas before, for a long time, it didn't actually say YMCA. It just was a big, it was the red and black Y logo that was there for forever. And so we really wanted to put those things in. And so going back to our mission statement, which is to put Christian principles or Christian values into the programs that we offer, most of the time that what we found or what we find is that Christian values and Christian principles are similar across tons of different religious, socioeconomic backgrounds, that people want to know that their kids coming to the Y are going to be caring of one another, that they're going to be honest toward one another, have respect for each other, hold each other responsible and accountable, and have self-responsibility. Those are values that are kind of transcend that. And so we try to integrate those types of values into all that we do. We don't shy away from the fact that, when we have game time, we're going to do a prayer, but it's trying to be understanding that we do include that without formally just exclusively serving Christian families and Christian members. And so, that's definitely something that we really try to focus on, is the values portion of what we do.
Thank you. So I may be one of the only people in our audience that actually hasn't used a Y, having not grown. I grew up in Alaska. We had Ys in the bigger city, but not where I was at.
Sure.
But we actually, our schools actually had swim programs, and everyone in 1st through 3rd grade went through swim class in all of our elementary schools as part of the school program. So when you live in a rural area and you don't have a Y nearby,
Yeah.
can you go to a Y? Like I live in McCormick County. Can I go to Greenwood County and go to the Y if I don't live in the county?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can definitely go to the Ys outside of the county in which you live. Those memberships, you'll be able to get a membership there. And the nice thing about the Y World is that when you're a member at my Y here in Indian Land, you can travel and go to a Y in another county and be able to use that Y as long as they participate in the Y's nationwide program. But that's something that gives people that access. So they know if I'm traveling down to Florida on a vacation, I want to go get my workout, so I still can get that community. And it might look a little different, but I still have that access to that type of community. And even looking at, I saw somebody mention here rural communities, and even you, Julia, saying Alaska. It's something that, even for us here in our area, Chester County is a county we serve that we don't have any Ys in. We don't have an actual standalone building YMCA in there at all, but we still serve Chester County with Live Strong programming, which is a cancer survivorship program. And then with our Learn to Swim program, also serves Chester County. So we try to still be able to serve those counties to make sure that everyone can still be included in it, even if there's maybe not a building for a Y actually there on the property as well.
And then Candace had asked about plans for an outdoor aquatic facility in your area. Is that something that they are making plans for or looking?
Yeah, that's a good question. We had when this place was opened, they had a sign out front talking about an outdoor water park and an outdoor pool and that sort of thing. And that definitely is an area where we have growth needs as it pertains to how many swim lessons we can offer, how many people want to come in and do lap swimming and group swimming and open swim and classes. And there's a ton of moving pieces for sure. Um, I do think that we've identified something that has a little bit more um, of an area of need, which is in our fitness areas. Our fitness areas are significantly at their threshold with needs in all classes and different kind of different points of where we might need additional support. That really is an area. So I think we're looking at what can that space that we have be used for. Is there other building space that we could use for that sort of need? Is there still a need for outdoor water park with the fact that we have the Baxter Close Y in Fort Mill that's less than 20 minutes away from us that has it? So there's questions about it. There really isn't anything. It's been a question about funding for the longest time. Funding that site is a pretty significant financial challenge. So that's really where the effort is on securing that to be able to proceed with whatever that build is going to look like.
Yeah, good. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I think I covered most of the questions in the chat. So if people have additional questions that they want to ask, if you want to raise your hand and we can go that route. And definitely, if you want to share an experience about the Y that just impacted your life, I'm happy to hear those as well. So any other questions for Walter that you didn't get to type in? Shirley has a question.
Yeah, go for it.
A couple of things when you were speaking. Josh the Otter is a program that we had, and I don't know if it's Rotary, all over Rotary, or it's just in a district we were in, but it's an anti-drowning program. And Josh, there's a costume the guy dresses up like, and they have books to go with it to teach kids about swimming and the safety and all that stuff. So you might look into that if that's interesting to you.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you saying that.
The other thing I thought of, you were talking about having their leadership program was for middle-aged kids, middle teenagers. Rotary had a program called Interact.
Yeah.
That you could maybe hook up with a club and, they could sponsor the Interact club there.
Shirley, that's great. I actually have a meeting set up with the person from Interact at Indian Land High School.
Well, awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited to get connected with them because our club in Indian Land has a really good established relationship with Interact, and I'm not sure if that's how all clubs are, but they do, and I think that's something that
that's great.
Speaking with the person that we have that's kind of over that group or kind of most connected with them, they've got me set up with the teacher that's kind of helping on campus because
that's awesome.
Those are the kind of kids we want to have in that program. It's like
exactly.
They are already service-minded kids that that want to help their community grow and expand, like that's who we want, you know? So thank you for saying that.
The third
I
thing,
think- Yeah, go
we're an
ahead.
e-club and you can live anywhere and be in an e-club. So maybe your mom would like to join us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of our Rotary Club. Being an e-club is for those people that really can't travel and drive to a
Right.
club or live too far. Yeah, and I will say that definitely Interact students, I was thinking about them when you were talking about the Leaders Club, because they are
Right.
the kind of people that would want to go through and be a summer counselor or help with something like that.
Totally.
Now, I'm circling back to that. You had said something about them needing to qualify for Leaders Camp. They had to already have like 150 volunteer hours before they could go to camp.
But the Leaders Club program works on a academic calendar year, so they will gain over the school year and 150 hours to be able to attend. And we actually give an hour away for every Monday night meeting that we have, and so there's different ways to get it. And it's pretty easy if you can plan it out and kind of have a generalized plan for how you want to do it. And then they have to get 150 hours to be able to attend Blue Ridge Leader School, which happens in July at the end of the school year, kind of right before the upcoming school year, which is what we just did. So it's more so like throughout the year in the program than it is something that's like a prerequisite. They don't have to have anything like that.
And is it volunteering with Y related programs?
It can be both. We
For
take
community.
external hours as well. So if somebody were to serve at a Rotary 5K event and they want to put that in for hours, they certainly can.
Right. And what's the age group for the camp?
The Blue Ridge Leader School serves 13 to 18-year-olds. We take people in the program year who are 12 as long as they turn 13 by a specific date.
Awesome. Any other questions? Ken, go ahead.
This is a really great program. I'm really impressed. We have a terrific Y in Simpsonville, South Carolina. And I don't know about your Y, but it has a great program for people with Parkinson's.
Oh,
So
yeah.
my wife Shirley has been going there, and we were amazed at how many people. There were at least 20 people in this Parkinson's program at the Y. Really terrific. So she's really doing well, and the program helped her. I'd also like to ask about elementary school kids at the Y.
Yeah.
Rotary has an unofficial program called RotoKids. It's for elementary school kids to learn community service. It's actually very, very big in other countries, in Great Britain in particular. And Shirley was part of the district leadership program way back in 2005 that started the first program in Florida, actually, in North.
Oh, cool.
We lived in in Florida, Palm Beach County for 40 years. So we've only been in South Carolina for about 3 years. So we were delighted to see the Y's great work here. So thanks for everything you do.
No, thank you, Ken. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Candace, I'm gonna let you have one more question, and then we're gonna move on to our speaker dedication. But first, you have to.
Yeah, I know. So Walter, we would be very remiss if we did not, if your mother is ever missing getting her Rotary fix, she's more than welcome to attend our meetings anytime. Please pass that on to her.
Yes, I certainly will. I appreciate it.
All right. So, Walter, one of the things that we do for our speakers is to support literacy in our local communities is we dedicate a book to you, to a little free library in one of our communities. And so the book that was picked for you is Why Dandelions Grow. And it's by Nita Marie Clark and illustrated by Kathy Doherty. And just like dandelions, YMCAs have a place in the hearts of so many. And just like dandelions, the YMCA offers joy and hope across our communities. So this book will have our name placard on the inside and dedicated to you. when
Oh,
we put
cool.
it in that little free library. And we appreciate everything that you do for the Y. And thanks for sharing such great information. And you're welcome at our club anytime. And I'm sure that some of the locals in your area may make it to Indian Land Lunch.
Absolutely.
So for the good of the order, everyone can unmute themselves for the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do,
Is it the truth?
Truth.
Unmuted.
is it fair to all
To all
concerned?
concerned.
Third,
Will it build
Goodwill
better
and better
friendships?
friendships.
and fourth.
Will it be beneficial to
Beneficial
all
to all
concerned?
concerned.
All right, I'm turning my sound on. Woo.